Good evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth George, Chief Membership Officer with the American Guild of Organists. And I cannot begin to tell you how excited I am about the webinar that we're going to present tonight, or excuse me, that J.W. Arnold is going to present tonight, about the Weekend Organist tips and tricks. We have over 200 people who have registered for this webinar. I'm very, very excited. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. You are muted, but we do want to hear from you. So please put your questions in the Q&A icon, which is at the bottom of the screen. You can also put comments in chat. I'll be going back and forth and monitoring these as JW is doing his presentation. This is being recorded, and probably within the next 48 hours, we will send a link out. There'll be some handouts with it. So, I think I should just let the star tonight introduce himself. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our marketing communication specialist, J.W. Arnold.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. It's really good to be with you. It's sort of a different setting for us, isn't it, tonight? Normally, we're working to assist the chapters and the members of the guild in a more professional way with your chapter issues and those types of things. And so tonight we're talking a little bit more personal level. We're talking about our members as organists, and I'm really happy to be here with you today. Let me start sharing my screen and we'll get going. And I hope you will be patient with me. I am not always the best with Zoom and all that, but hopefully we'll get through this without any glitches tonight. We will be doing some slides and hopefully some video. And the important thing tonight is I hope you'll feel free to throw out your thoughts and your comments in the chat box or in the Q&A box. Ideally, this is a conversation, even though the webinar format doesn't really set itself up for it. But we had so many people pre-registered that we weren't able to use a regular Zoom meeting. So let's get started. Now, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. Maybe I'm not so different from many of you. My grandmother was an organist for 50 years in her small Southern Baptist church in Lexington, Missouri. And my earliest memories are sitting next to her on the bench an hour or an hour and a half before the service as she went through the hymns. Very, very cherished memories and instilled in me a love of the organ very early on. I grew up in a rural community with one pipe organ. It was an 8-rank unified Wicks instrument, had 2 manuals, and it was quite a big deal to have the opportunity to play that. And I started playing for services really while I was in junior high school. And unfortunately, I didn't really know what I was doing though, and began my formal study as an undergraduate at Central Methodist University in Fayette, Missouri. And that's really where I started to understand how 2 feet can work together on the pedal board, and concepts of registration and the tradition and the technique and all the things that the organ allows us to do as musicians. And I was very fortunate to win a Rotary Scholarship in my undergraduate and went to New Zealand, where I studied Baroque organ and harpsichord. And that was kind of a lucky break because I got the scholarship, and it so happened that the teacher there was a Baroque specialist. And then I came home after a year in New Zealand and everything changed. I'd sort of reevaluated my professional desires, my aspirations, and moved to Washington, D.C. to work on Capitol Hill. I thought politics was going to be my thing. And so I got there in 1993, kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and naive about all things political. And then there was a big election in 94. And overnight, 10,000 people lost their jobs because the parties flipped power in both the House and the Senate. But I was really fortunate. I got a job with the President's own United States Marine Band as a public affairs specialist. And I was also lucky to get to play the organ a few times with the band too, including for the President of the United States, which I know there are other AGO members who've also had that privilege as well. I got out of the Marine Corps because I did have to raise my arm and enlist and solemnly swear to uphold and defend the Constitution. So I got out 4 years later and began work as a PR and a marketing consultant, and worked with arts and entertainment organizations, associations, and a lot of nonprofits. And that takes me to last year in the spring. I joined the AGO staff as a consultant working on marketing and communications in all manners to promote the AGO, to assist chapters, to get our website up and going someday, and work with social media. And so I'm very busy doing all things AGO. But here's the important details, and this is the piece that's really relevant to our conversation tonight. All through those years, those nearly 30 years, more than 30 years, I served as a part-time organist or a music director. And the funny thing is, it's kind of like Noah's Ark, because these were in twos. I served 2 Southern Baptist churches, then 2 United Methodist churches, 2 Episcopal churches, 2 Presbyterian churches, and now I've made my way to the ELCA, the Lutheran churches. And I currently serve as the music director at Christ Lutheran Church in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I've been there for 9 years, and that's quite a record for me to be in one place for that long. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a sense of a background. I've kind of been everywhere. I've been on the gospel and the spirituals and the very evangelical side, but I've also served high churches and all of that as well. So what is the weekend organist? And I'll be curious to see what you think about this, but it was hard to come up with the right term because, I mean, the part-time organists can vary. Some of us may have jobs that require 5 hours a week, 20 hours or more, but we're still part-time. Generally, I think we're paid either hourly or salaried. Many of us are volunteers and do this, out of service to church and our faith. Many of us are self-taught, but many of us are also professionally trained. And I think the key here is that for most of us, we have a primary occupation of some sort, that day job, the week job. But what that means is that in balancing these various gigs, and I do use the word gigs, it means that sometimes we have to do a little bit more with less. Practice time comes at a premium, especially if you're working 40 hours during the week, or perhaps your sanctuary is very booked up during the week and it's hard to get in. Sometimes we have to deal with instruments that are either limited, sometimes they're old, sometimes they're not ideal. But those are the instruments that our churches have, and it forces us to be creative and use our time well. Sometimes we have smaller budgets. I will tell you that my church has really been struggling, especially since COVID, and I took a pay cut, and I don't have a budget other than a few $100s to supplement the holidays. And the other piece of it's volunteers. Many of us are very fortunate and may have a wealth of volunteer choir members and handbell ringers and children that are interested, but many of us don't. And coming out of COVID, I went from a choir of about 8 or 9 on a Sunday morning to a choir of 3. And so it really forces us to be creative again. But here's the important piece. And no matter what your situation is, whether you're paid, volunteer, big church, small church, you know what? Each of us has a way of leading a meaningful music ministry, whether it's with three in your choir or 30. I mean, that's really the key. And so no matter what the definitions may be, no matter where we feel we compare with each other, at the end of the day, we do this because we're playing an important role in the spiritual life of our congregation. And so that's very important. And it's interesting, in the last big member survey that was completed a couple of years ago before the pandemic, the results found that between 50 and 60% of AGO members are actually part-time or weekend organists, as we've defined it here. So that's a pretty big proportion of our membership that find themselves kind of working a little harder or stretching the budget, coming up with new ideas, and not to diminish our friends that have full-time positions, not to diminish anyone else, but a lot of us are really in that boat of looking for fresh ideas for our congregations. Today, here are some of the topics that I'd like to cover, and I hope everyone can see this. I'm going to talk a little bit about my bag of tricks, two composers I'm currently obsessed with, working with tiny choirs, interesting new publications, and hopefully if the chat's up and going, you'll share your thoughts on some of these as well. We're going to look ahead on the calendar and talk about some resources that might be available. Also, I'm going to share some of the topics that I'm planning to cover in upcoming columns, and ask you, how can the AGO support you, and some feedback and discussion. So what do I mean when I say my bag of tricks? Well, when I took my job at Christ Lutheran Church, my predecessor said, you know what, it's time for somebody with a new bag of tricks. He'd been there for about 10 years. And it really bugged me a little bit, because I sort of wonder, bag of tricks? Well, do we have bags of tricks? But what it dawned on me was, what are those resources that we just keep coming back to, or those composers that we use a lot? And I thought, if I had 5 pieces that I could take with me, if I had to take it with me tomorrow to a new position, what would I take with me? And these were the 5 that I came up with. And I hope that you will add yours in the chat as well. Are you still seeing the screen, or did I throw it out?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's still there. It's still
Okay,
there.
great. So in my bag of tricks, I have 5 things. The first is Charles Callahan's The Art of Hymn Playing. And if you're familiar with this volume, it's incredible. There, in just one book, there are 250 different preludes, interludes, accompaniments, alternate harmonizations of very common tunes. And they're not just liturgical church tunes, but also some gospel and folk tunes. And I just find that I use that on a very regular basis when I'm accompanying services at my church, to spice it up. I have a smaller organ that has a limited number of stops, and so the way I can make the hymns most interesting is to do that. And I'm not sure this is showing. Is this showing still? Let me share this again. Okay, here we go. So again, a really great book from Morningstar, and there's a volume 2 as well. So a really fantastic volume. Another one that I use all the time is The Essential Collection of Psalm Impressions by Douglas Wagner. And Doug Wagner, of course, is very common composer, choral, piano, organ music. But back in about the mid 80s, he came up with the first volume of these psalm impressions, and they're all based on a psalm verse, and they're very trumpet tune, toccata, hymn, chorale, prelude, in very general forms, and they are incredibly valuable. I can pull those out at any time for a prelude, an offertory, communion music. They're great for extended preludes before a wedding, because we all know that the bride and the party always arrive right on time for a wedding. And I tell you that those collections work really great for that. They also conversely work really well for funerals too. Very, very nice, easy listening music there. And let's try this. Is that better? I just got a text that said that it wasn't in presentation view. And just a really fantastic collection. And now they're essentially there were 3 individual volumes, and then just I think last year, the year before, they came out with this bigger collected volume, and I recommend it highly. Another collection that's just come out in the last couple of years that has been a real hit with my congregation is 60 Easy Hymn Settings for Piano. Virtually every very standard hymn is included in it. They're jazzy. Some are sort of classical in tone. Very, very colorful and inventive piano arrangements that literally, an average, above average pianist could probably sit down and work their way through the book in just a couple of readings and get those ready for performance. And what I found in my Lutheran church is that because we do communion every Sunday, they really enjoy the piano during the service as it's meditative. It's a little quieter than the organ, and so that's become something that originally started as a seasonal choice to use. I used to use the piano during maybe Advent or Lent during communion, and now it's every Sunday because they enjoyed it. Another great piece is Paul Mons's aria. I think most of us are probably familiar with Paul Mons. I mean, one of the giants of organ music, and the aria again is another one of those pieces that really can serve any function. You can pull it out again for a prelude or an offertory. I always use it in weddings as the time when the mothers are coming in. And it allows you to vary the registration a little bit. And then the final resource in my bag of tricks here is Hal Hobson's volume, The Creative Use of Handbells in Worship. And my church, right before I got there, was gifted a beautiful 3-octave set of handbells. And then there was a little falling out. And so a lot of the handbell ringers, decided that it wasn't their thing anymore. This is before I got there, mind you. The kind of church drama that we all know about. But what I love about this collection is there are just dozens and dozens and dozens of peals and ostinatos and various chordal arrangements that allow you to take anywhere from 3, 4, 5 ringers and turn it into just a really beautiful musical moment. I have a very small choir, but I can tell you that when we process in on Christmas Eve to "O Come All Ye Faithful," there's a great bell part that has 5 bells. I can give each of my choir members 1 bell, and we go through in the hymn and we highlight the place in the hymn where they ring their bell. And that way they can sing and process and ring the bell, to open the Christmas Eve service. So lots of really great things in there. And, I highly recommend it. He's also put out some other volumes that I'm not familiar with. The creative use of the organ in worship, the creative use of the piano, I believe. And so I think based on my experience with this one volume, I would certainly say that they're probably really great resources to take a look at. I have a couple of obsessions. I hope if the chat is working now that you will, write in some of those pieces that you turn to all the time. We had some readers respond to the column, and I love our friend Howard Backen in North Carolina said Paco Bell. He sent me an email, and so it's always fun to know what works for you and what do you keep turning to. But here are 2 composers that I really enjoy. The first is the music director at Shepherd of he's in Fort Lauderdale, and at a Lutheran church about a mile from me, Shepherd of the Coast. And Phil is a retired band director, but has loved music. And when he took the position, he sort of set out to compose a new work. I believe he told me once every week he wanted to compose a new prelude or a piece every week for his service. And this started, I think, in 2020. And if you're on here, please correct me in the chat. But just know that I'm a huge fan. And his pieces are all available for download on Sheet Music Plus. And also Lorenz has been publishing some of them in their online library as well. And they're just really great, very tuneful, and reasonably quick to learn and be able to perform. So I'd encourage you to look him up. I think he's got probably 70 different selections, if I've got my numbers right, up online, maybe more. And so I really think you'll enjoy that. The Here Is Joy to the World jig, which is fun at Christmas time, and another called Sacred Joy. one of the things I also really love about Phil's music is I think his experience as a band director. He really knows how to register music and use the stops and sort of give it an orchestral or a concert band type of a sound to the pieces. So definitely look those up as well. Another composer, Marianne Kim, I think a longtime AGO member, and I love her music as well. She really has found a way to meld jazzy harmonies and into traditional settings. And my favorite absolutely is her 15 reharmonized hymns for Christmas. I used those last year for the first time. They were a complete hit with my congregation. Uh, all the traditional Christmas hymns that we use, and that's downloadable from her website, mariannekimmusic.com. And I just bought a volume last year called The Holy City, which is a collection of hymns, again with that jazzy spirit. So definitely worth checking out and looking at. And I do have some recordings, so if technology is our friend, I'm gonna go back here in a few minutes and we'll listen to a couple of selections from several of these. My second column was about working with tiny choirs. I don't know if they can get any tinier than 3. I have a soprano who has a good ear but doesn't read music. I have an alto who is a former Lutheran pastor's spouse. So boy, she knows the hymnody and is a solid alto with a very limited range and kind of weak voice. And then I have a baritone who's also a PK and grew up in the tradition. Who he reads and does it all. But I always feel like a little guilty because here's somebody who's so experienced, and I don't want him to get too bored. But again, what do you do with 3 people? And that's again where we turn to a couple of these suggestions that I have for you. I'm coming back to Mr. Callahan and the art of hymn playing, because all of those arrangements are great accompaniments for a small ensemble. Typically one of the things he likes to do in this book is to do manuals only arrangements, and so they're colorful and sometimes a little contrapuntal, and they never overpower my vocalist. So I would encourage you, if you have this volume or come across it, maybe take a look at some of those as a way to create an impromptu anthem, because we've all had that Sunday when we realized that one of our key singers wasn't going to be there, or maybe slept in or didn't make it for some reason. And so it's a great resource. And the same goes for this new collection from John Benke, Hymns Complete. And Elizabeth at Lois Fife turned me on to this at the Southwest Convention. I was flipping through the bin and pulled that out. And she said, you know what, those make great accompaniments for anthems for a small choir. And so I'm really appreciative to her for pointing those out. And they're great, because he takes the melodies and he moves it from the left hand to the right hand, the bass to the soprano, and they build. And so it really makes for an interesting setting. The essential collection for the church soloist, Lloyd Larson's collection, again, can be arranged very easily for a small choir. They're solos essentially, but I found that you can take a verse with the women or a verse with the men, and bring everyone together for the choruses, and they cover a wide range of repertoire as well, from the traditional to the more contemporary. And then I also like Hope Publishing's essential 2-part anthems collections. There's probably about 10 or 12 volumes of these, and they're 2-part in the sense of there's a women's part and a men's part. So if you don't have tenors and altos, it's a great way to produce a nice sounding anthem that essentially hides the shortcomings of your personnel. Here are a couple that I think are really interesting newer publications. I know you can read these, so I'm just gonna pull out a couple. Peaceful Piano by Mark Hayes. I think that just came out in the last couple of months. Again, I use the piano a lot for communion and quiet times in the service. And these are beautiful, beautiful, super duper readable. And you might need to practice it more than once to get it ready for a service, but very playable, very peaceful, very appropriate. And so I'd really highly recommend them. There are more than 20 pieces in there. They several of them can be appended to the other, and it's a really great resource there. And another one that I think is really great is Hymns of Praise and Let Us Sing, the second volume from Lynn Trapp. A little lighter on the pedal. So if you're an organist who's maybe a little less comfortable with the pedal, that offers you ways to jazz up your hymns during the service and not have to worry about too challenging of a pedal part. And here's some pieces kind of looking ahead. I know we're always looking ahead to the future, planning for the next season. And I just want to share a couple of my favorites with you. For Christmas, I just picked this one up in Tulsa this summer at the Southwest Regional Convention. John Dixon, Christmas Presents for Organ. I know his name's probably a little familiar. It's because he's also the AGO treasurer, but also a composer. And one of the things I like about this collection is not only is there a nice arrangement of Carol of the Bells, but many of the carols that he's chosen to set in this come from that English tradition. And it's nice. It's a little bit of a contrast to the typical hymns that we might do in the course of the service. And again, very playable. As we get ready for February, which is African American History Month, here are a couple that I think are worth taking a look at. Four Spirituals by Adolphus Hailstork. There's a really fun toccata on Great Day in there that was performed at the Southwest Regional again in Tulsa. And again, very playable and very enjoyable to listen to. Florence Price is a composer who's really come onto our radar screen in the last several years. And through Sheet Music Plus, now you can download her short organ works. Some of her stuff's pretty hard. And so these are a little bit more manageable, especially if practice time is at premium. And then another one for Woman Composer Sunday, which we're going to be celebrating in March. I hope all of you will make it a priority on March the 10th to perform some music by women on that Sunday in your services. This collection, Wondrous Love, by Brenda Portman, has several selections that are really, really nice. And I'd encourage you to take a look at those. And before we go to the recordings, God willing that technology helps us out on this, I just want to share a couple of really important points on this. We can always work a little smarter, and I'd like to share a couple of sites I love. There's an organist in Lithuania, Vidas Pinkevičius, and if you participate in the AGO Organ Forum, our forum on Facebook, Vidas is going to be pretty familiar because I think right now he's the #1 contributor. Always sharing his performances and his videos. But it's worth checking out his YouTube channel, and I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why. If you look at that, you'll see a tutorial, how to harmonize an F minor scale, how to harmonize an A flat minor scale. I can't scroll down on this, but he has a tutorial on how to transition from one hymn to another. And here's the real prize is for any of you who may be working on something a little more difficult. He has just dozens of pieces from the repertoire, works by Bach, works by Reger, works by all of the composers, Brahms, and they're actually all fingered out and pedaled out. And for a small fee, those are available as well. So I'm just going to let you know, I'm going to take the CAGO exam next year, and I've already downloaded those to help me because fingering is not my skill. And so it's a great resource to take a look at. So I hope that you'll give it a look. Just go to YouTube and look up Secrets of Organ Playing, and and explore, because really great resource. Another one is an AGO member. Did you know that you get 10% discount at Sheet Music Plus? Even if you're buying individual pieces at $3.95 or $4.95, that'll add up. So take advantage of that. And then if you're ordering hard copies of music, that savings can be pretty substantial. And the way to take advantage of that, typically we feature this in our monthly e-newsletter that's coming out. So watch for that on Friday when it comes out. And you can also get to it when you log into OnCard. And Elizabeth, can you remind us really quickly how we find that?
Yes, once you go in, you log in, you'll be able to see it when you go into your profile. And each month we have a different code to use from Sheet Music Plus. So you go in and you go to the Sheet Music website, you purchase the music you want. When it's time to check out, you need to enter the code in order to get the discount.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, take advantage of that. I think you'll be really pleased with what you'll find. And then the other resource that I've tapped a lot of times is Lorenz actually has a $5.95 monthly subscription, which gets you a number of credits each month, and then you can use those towards digital downloads of individual pieces or larger collections. In my services, I try to perform a prelude that relates to the processional hymn, and I like to do an offertory that relates to either the hymn of the day or the communion hymn. And then when I'm doing a postlude, the postlude usually is an arrangement of the recessional hymn. And maybe that's not your flavor for a service, but what I found is that people really enjoy the reinforcement. You prepare them to sing that first hymn, they hear that. And what I love about Lorenz Online is a lot of times I don't have something in my library that corresponds to some of those hymns, but I can go online and search and download something that I can work out fairly quickly. And I find that is a great place to go. And you don't have to use the credits every month, they add up. So if you want to save for something, you have that ability too. And let's escape out of here for now, and let's go. I'd love to play you a couple of little excerpts from some of the resources that oh good, the chat's working. Oh, Gordon Young too. Yeah, please share your thoughts as we go through this. I mean, I think our goal tonight is to build a community, a place where you can share your ideas and your successes. And sometimes it's a place where you can go and sort of say, I'm having this trouble at my church and I don't know what to do, or I have an issue in my choir, or I can't find the right piece of music. I hope that we can think of our Weekend Organist community as a place where we can come together and share those ideas. But let's go to some of the recordings. Let's see what you think. You may like them, you may not, but hopefully Elizabeth's going to let me know if the sound doesn't come through. But this is from that Douglas Wagner collection of essential psalm impressions. This is the toccata. And I think you get the point of that. Can you hear me now? Good. It's, again, it sounds really impressive. It's not nearly as hard as it sounds. And, it's a great way to, in a basically a 2.5 minute little toccata, to get people rolling out of the aisles and over to coffee hour. And so it's one that I really like. And all of the works in that collection are very similar to that one in terms of harmonics and styles. Now let's take a look at, this is the 60 easy hymn settings from Joel Rainey that's become absolutely a necessity that I have with me every Sunday just about. Oh, okay, the New York Times wants to weigh in the middle of that. Sorry. Here we go. Yeah, so you get a feel, and you can see that they're really not difficult. He's got the whole world in our hands. I used that a couple of weeks ago when we had the blessing of the animals, and everybody was wrangling their dogs and cats and parakeets and turtles and whatnot to get them up to the front of the church to be blessed. And people start singing along. That's the power of music, when you can get the toes tapping and have people really enjoying the spirit. Now we're going to turn to one of Phil Leyenbauer's works. This is Engelbert, When in Our Music God is Glorified. And let me just rewind this back to the beginning. And one of my favorites. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and one of the things I love with Phil is Phil actually has videos of all of his pieces, so you can actually kind of follow along with the score and watch and size it up and see, is this something that's right for me? Here's our friend Vetus with another of Phil's great composition. And I'm gonna toot Phil's horn because he's really a very humble person. But Phil really broke out during COVID. He had been posting his music online, and all of a sudden, organists in Australia and in Lithuania and all corners of the world discovered, and they started recording Phil's music and posting it. And so I think that really ascribes to the power that not only the music has, but that technology has allowed us to connect in this way. So here's Doxology Declaration. I use this one all the time. Yeah. So another great composition that I find I use all the time. And so let's go a little bit Christmassy now. And this is one of Marianne Kim's jazzy Christmas harmonizations. This is one of my favorites, especially if you got a nice trumpet or a solo stop on your organ. Hark the herald angels sing. I just love those. Every good hymn, Christmas carol that we know has just a really tasteful arrangement, and it's amazing when you switch into these from the arrangement in the hymnal, people sing out. And so don't be afraid to find an alternative harmony that you can throw in there. It keeps them on their toes, and it's a little surprise. That was a little Christmas present for my congregation. I'm watching the clocks. We have just a couple more and then we'll wrap things up. But this is, I spoke a little bit earlier about peaceful piano, the Marquets. And so here's a little taste of that. Great communion music. And one of the things he writes in the notes is that, sometimes it's okay to have a whole note and just let the sound ring. And that's one of the things that I love about this collection, just in the simplicity of the composition. As you heard in this one, each time he kind of repeated it, there was a little variation on it. He added a little bit of movement here, or a little running line. And I just feel like it's such a meditative moment, especially at times maybe when you're doing the laying on of hands, or prayers for healing, communion time, all of those special contemplative moments. And I'm going to close with one last musical selection for you. This is from the Four Spirituals from Adolphus Hailstork. This is the Toccata on Great Day. And, again, it's another one of these that really, sounds much more difficult than it is, but it's a great one for getting the congregation moving in the spirit. So let's listen to this from a performance from Dr. Javon Wong from San Diego. And you get the sense of it. It just keeps building, and just a joyous piece again. So I'm gonna take us back to the slides for just a couple of new questions. I'm just sort of scanning through the chat. Yes, David Cheerwin, another good one. Gordon Young, lots of suggestions here. What we're going to do is we'll copy the chat, and I'm going to put it together into some notes that we can share with each other, some of our favorites, and let everybody get a sense of what Robert Law, another one. I've got a great book for communion that I want to talk to you about sometime, maybe in another webinar. So let's take a look at our slides just one last couple of minutes. Okay, and I'm in slide. So let's move on. So here's the question for the chat. And thinking about your role today as a part-time church musician. Take a moment. What are the biggest challenges that you face? Is it a challenge of volunteers? Is it a challenge? Is your church in trouble? A lot of us play. My church is back to about 30 to 40 on a good Sunday morning after the pandemic. Now I've had my salary cut. What are the challenges that you face? And if things are going great, I want to hear that too. If you feel like things are great, or if there are challenges, please share those in the chat so that we can come up with new columns for you. And the other piece of this is how can the AGO support you, that part-time community? Would you like to see more articles and columns in TAO? Can we do more of these webinars and online reading sessions? Would you like chats or networking opportunities? Can we do more sessions at the conventions? Are there employment and professional issues that maybe are of a concern to you? Share this, because I think that'll help to guide me, but more importantly, guide the whole staff and our national leadership in addressing these types of issues that each of you face. I can't see the chat, but I'm just hoping that there's it's going crazy with ideas.
It is going crazy. I mean,
good.
Choosing music, especially 2- and 3-part choral music, fewer choir members to work with. I play organ once or twice a month. Staying proficient is my challenge. Scheduling time in the sanctuary for practice is tough sometimes. Finding vocal soloists for special services. With the shortage of organists, curious about others serving multiple congregations. I serve 2 Lutheran congregations, part-time at both congregations. One church is very small and struggling, one is growing. Time to coordinate with other musicians. Lots of great comments here about the music that you have suggested. And of course, Phil Liebenauer is very humbled that we have recognized him tonight. And how honored are we to have him as an AGO member and actually a nearby member to both of us, right, JW?
That's right. Great. Keep the comments coming. Share. I hope you feel like this is a way to make a difference, and we can't do it without your feedback. If you're curious what's coming down the pike in the Weekend Organist, here's the next 5 or 6 months. New Year's resolutions you can keep. I bet everybody's gonna say practice more. Well, we're going to suggest a plan to help you keep that resolution. A recitalist, who, me? Why not? Easter is for drama, we know that, and we're going to talk about some of the musical traditions that many of us return to every year in our Holy Week services. Here's a good one that's going to spark conversation: the substitute organist's code, filling in without a fuss, and just in time for summer, what I did on my summer vacation. So lots of great topics, and if you have topics, we'd love them. And beginning in January, there's going to be a little sidebar to the column as well. It's called The Day Job, or at least that's the working title. And we're going to do some profiles of some of our AGO members who may find themselves on the organ bench on Sunday morning, but do some really pretty amazing things Monday through Friday. And I hope if you're one of those people, shoot me an email or drop a note in the chat, because I think there's probably a lot of people out there that do some interesting stuff during the week that we'd love to share with others. So again, share those column topics, especially something that you might feel like you'd love to contribute thoughts. Join us in San Francisco. We're going to have a Weekend Organist reading session as part of the conference program. And my thanks to Nicole Moraine, our counselor for conventions, for making that happen. And it'll also be a chance for us to all get together and network and share ideas and resources with each other. And then this is how you can reach me. So just shoot me an email at jwarnold@agohq.org. And you can also go to facebook.com/AGOHQ. And I try to post the topic for each month in the chat. So it's a place to respond and encourage the dialogue. We have all these great social media tools that can be used for good, believe it or not. And I think our community is one of those areas that we can really support each other, uplift each other, and advance the profession that we all love, no matter how we practice it, no matter how many hours we spend a week, no matter if we're free, if we're volunteers or we're paid. We're an important part of the AGO too. And so speak up, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun in the coming months. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Elizabeth. I'm already like dying to read the chat. I can't wait to see what your suggestions are, because I think there's going to be some things I'm going to use.
Well, JW, thank you so much. You're getting thumbs up. I think we might have to do a series of these webinars in addition to what the columns you're writing in TAO. Everyone, I want to apologize for the technical difficulties we've had tonight. I share this Zoom account with another colleague at the AGO. And note to self, please check to make sure that chat that might have been disabled in a previous webinar is enabled in what I'm presenting. In any case, you know what, I think we'll have lots of handouts to share with you this recording, and we might just go ahead and do the survey again, have you fill it out and submit it. Just a couple of other things I wanted to share with you. We have our next webinar will be on November 20th, and actually JW and some of the marketing and communications support specialist team members, as well as our chapter leadership team members, are going to be talking about recruitment, and recruitment really meaning relationships. And they're also going to give us some tools and templates that our chapter leaders will be able to have. So we'll have a little box of recruitment tools. I'm very excited that in January, our Committee on Career Development and Support is going to do a webinar on interviewing. So I'm looking forward to that. We want to do another webinar on copyright and live streaming. And then something that I think is very, very important, we're going to do a webinar on artificial intelligence. So I want to thank everyone again tonight. Thank you, JW. You knocked it out of the ballpark. Really, really appreciate everyone's patience. And we will look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Take care.